Welcome to Around the Barrel.
We are good.
Cool. All right. And so you want to do the coffee first, or should we do the wine
let's do the
first?
coffee.
Which we're kind of breaking tradition. We're not doing bourbon this time because we have Catholics on, and so we have to drink
Well,
wine.
I would think you would because you're having Catholics on.
For the wine, right?
Anything.
Oh, well.
Okay, get the knob.
I don't want to get us in trouble.
We're doing communion today, and so we
Yeah.
have to have wine, and so that's why we're doing that.
Jesus drank a lot of wine.
So we brought that up this last podcast where a guy talked about making whiskey. I was like, yeah, I mean, and Josh, he goes to
Making
Josh's
moonshine.
church, or moonshine, and he goes to his church. He's like, if I could do this with my pastor every time. I said, yeah, this is communion. You're fellowshipping and you're having alcohol, which was Jesus' first miracle, right? So it's kind of like church. Is that stretching it too much?
I'm just thinking every podcast that we do, we're going to bring up the John chapter 2, Jesus turning water to wine.
There we go.
It's just like every podcast, we're going to have to mention it.
Well, you want to get the coffee going
Yeah.
and kind of talk about what the coffee is and how you even found it and where it's from? Italy, Italia, 1895. You guys want coffee?
Yes.
Okay.
It's cold outside.
It is. You're not a coffee fan?
Oh, I used to drink coffee when I was on the radio a long time ago, and I put hot chocolate in it. That was a long time ago.
Do you want, we have some flavor?
No,
Okay.
I'm good. I'm good.
Am I allowed to ask for coffee creamer?
No.
Well, while he's doing that then, and we're getting the coffee going, we can also open the wine up. And so the reason why this one is even chosen is only because of the picture on it. That's how whether it's a bourbon or a wine, that's how I look for it, is the picture of what
Appealing
it is.
to the eye.
It is, yeah.
But
And so,
I think
Hopefully
you
it's
should
appealing
read.
to your taste
I think
buds.
you should read the first paragraph on the back of the label.
'Kay.
All the mushy gushy. The female in the room is all like, it's mushy and gushy and inspirational, but I think it really fits.
our podcast. 'Cause it's okay, here we go. So, gnarly head, it's a Zinfandel. There we go. Gnarly vines aren't pretty. The twisted grapevines that give our wine its big, bold flavors have struggled and survived by digging deep. Well, I guess that could be us. That's where the good stuff
Maybe
is.
it just resonated with me today. I don't know. I was
At
like,
the edge of what's possible. Hey, I like it. So we have flavors of berry fruit and spice. It's toasty and vanilla scented oak, but it's very smooth and it goes well with ribs, chili, and fajitas.
Pretty good.
So there we
sounds
go.
like it's perfect for fall.
So there you guys go. There we go. All right. Well, Josh, you want to kind of go on the coffee and what the background of that coffee is?
Well, hand me the bag.
So we can kind of.
So I was just looking this up. It's kind of a neat company. Been around, just right on the bag. 1895. It's a family that's like third, fourth generation. They've been doing roasting for quite a while. And so, yeah, I think that's the reason I grabbed this bag of coffee was my wife and I stayed at a hotel and they were proudly serving this coffee and
cool.
not Starbucks. And so I was like, hey, I've seen that before. I wonder what it's like if we brew that. So
I like it. It's a really
yeah,
good, really good flavor.
You guys like it?
I do.
I even gave some to Deb, and she's not usually for the dark stuff, but she's like, she didn't feel like it had a real acid taste.
No, it's pretty smooth. Yeah, it's not too bad. So
Coffee and wine.
we have no pattern here at all. Yeah, I like that one though.
No, it's really good.
Yeah. Well, we are excited to have you guys on today, and so really, if you just kind of introduce yourselves and a little bit about you, and then we'll kind of go into Catholic Charities, and I think there's a lot of not known facts about what you guys do. And I think you just hear Catholic Charities, and they just only help out the Catholic area, but it was kind of cool when we were able to tour the facility and get to know every aspect that you guys are involved in. And so we were really excited to have you on and talk about that. So if you want to introduce yourselves, and then we'll kind of get into Catholic Charities, and then kind of circle back and kind of get your guys' backgrounds and how you even joined. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, I'll start. Thank you for having us here, for sure. My name is Megan Robl, and I'm currently the Executive Director of Catholic Charities, and I have been in this role for 2 years and about 2 months. So some kind of recent breaking news. I might have a different future coming up for me. I have kind of decided to pursue some different opportunities outside of Catholic Charities, but I'm so happy to be here today and talking about this important work because, like we're talking, you know, as a Catholic and as any person of faith, and just having been in this organization for the past 2 years, there's so many amazing things happening there. And it is so important to me that everyone out there in the world gets to hear about them. So awesome. I'm excited to share more about that today.
Cool. All right.
And thank you for having us on, too. We really appreciate this so we can share more about what happens at Catholic Charities. And I'm Eric Frank. I'm the Director of Development, and I'm going on over 12 years. So I've been around to see a lot of different changes and things that we do and our growth and just hanging out.
Cool. So what's the background? How did Catholic Charities get started? Where did it all start from? Is it kind of a pretty old nonprofit then, or?
Yes. So our Catholic Charities serves the Catholic Diocese of Salina, and it has existed since, Eric, 1959.
That's what the plaque says from the founder.
Okay. So it was incorporated in 1959, so over 60 years of service. And I think prior to that, you know, the diocesan service started over in Abilene, where there was an orphanage, and so the nuns took care of all of the orphans, and that eventually morphed into what has grown today into Catholic Charities of Northern Kansas. As a national organization, you know, every diocese across the country has a Catholic Charities, and they all look a little bit different. But those, you know, I was just at a gathering with all of the other Catholic Charities across the country, and some of them were getting ready to celebrate their 100th anniversary and those things. So some of them have been around a lot longer, but it's definitely a very long-standing organization and that has a lot of history in the area.
Okay. And so 1959 was when it started here in Salina, you said, right?
Yes,
okay.
It started out as Catholic Charities of Salina,
okay.
And then Eric can probably talk about when the name changed to Catholic Charities of Northern Kansas.
Yeah, well, we had supporters that were in Western Kansas, and actually it was Catholic Charities of Salina Incorporated. That's what we were called. And so people that were supporting us way out west didn't really feel that their dollars were making an impact to them locally because of our name, Catholic Charities of Salina. And so we thought it was pretty important to reflect that in the name. So we did a lot of different work to what is the name going to be. And so some of the other Catholic charities in Kansas at the time were of certain areas, like we changed ours to Northern Kansas, and that's why we did that, is because other Catholic charities were doing that too. And it just made sense. So it covered, you know, the part of Kansas that we cover now, which is 25,000 some square miles, which is a huge area. But now it reflects really our area, so people don't really kind of get misconceived that it's Catholic Charities of Salina, because we had an office in Manhattan and Hayes at the time too, but it wasn't reflecting, you know, that total area.
So how many counties do you guys cover then?
31.
God. And that's one thing I didn't know was I thought, okay, again, it's just Salina, you do Saline County, that's pretty much it. But when you guys were talking about, hey, we have this huge area we cover, and then every single one of the fields you cover in too. So it's not just, okay, well, we have donations and you can only receive the donations if you're Catholic. Kind of go into everything you guys do and the impact you have, because I think people will be surprised. It's a huge variety of impact that you guys do.
Sure. So first and foremost, like Nathan just said, it's not just for Catholics, and that's the biggest misconception out there. And again, that's a national misconception. We don't only hire Catholics, not to call them out, but Eric is not Catholic, and he's one of our longest standing employees.
You're in good company. We're not Catholics either. So
but he's one of the most, I always tell people, I'm like, it doesn't matter. He's one of the, like, the best employees, one of the most faithful people I've ever met. And so it's really what we are, as an arm of the social arm of the Catholic Church. But we're a community of people that come together to fulfill the church's Catholic social teachings, which is to serve those in need around us. And so we're here to serve all people, regardless of their faith background or their beliefs. We don't ask for any more information than necessary to provide that service. And in most cases, all we're really looking for is how many people are in your household and what's your income, so that we can sort of validate some of those things to make sure we get them the help that they need. But it is not just for Catholics. So we do not discriminate, and we're here to help whoever walks through our doors, because we're human. And that's God's call for all of us. You're human, I'm human. He made all of us. He loves us all equally. And so we're not here to judge. We're not here to judge people's decisions. We're just here to help them because they need the help. Talking about all of the different things we do, Eric has pulled out, I know it's a podcast so you can't see it, but he's pulled out this lovely
we do a video right there.
We
do a video.
There is a video. So we just, hot off the press, have our latest Hands of Hope newsletter, because this is kind of our annual campaign kickoff month that just happened this weekend. And so this highlights all of the different areas that we have, and there is so much. So we try to talk about those in 6 different categories. And there's a lot of things that fall under those, but the first one is financial and housing assistance. So people that are income qualified, living at 130% of the federal poverty guideline or below that, can receive help with rent, utilities, prescriptions. We do a lot of that kind of emergency financial assistance, but then there are some longer term case management programs for helping folks who are coming out of the legal system, who need help finding housing to reestablish their lives. We have a very successful program called the Kansas Loan Pool Project, which actually was invented here at our Catholic Charities, and that has now taken off at other Catholic charities across the country. That helps to fight predatory lending. So people who are dealing with title loans, payday loans, those types of things where you've got 300% interest rates, it's impossible to get out from under that when you're already in a bad situation, which is why you turn to that anyway. We can help, through a partnership with Sunflower Bank, help consolidate that debt, pull people out of that situation, and then do financial coaching as they pay that loan off at a much more reasonable rate. Other financial assistance needs, we have special pools of money for catastrophic illnesses, disabilities, youth who maybe don't have family support, or because they grew up in foster care and they have a special need. They can come in and we can assist them with things that they might need to get through that. So there's a lot of money that goes out the door, but we try to make sure that, we're meeting those people where they are and providing them like a whole host of things that they need, because you guys are financial advisors. Money doesn't necessarily make the world go around, but it contributes to a lot of
It does help, though.
It's
to
as
a lot of
important
those
as
other
oxygen.
pieces.
Yes.
It's directly tied in with health and having a roof over your head and healthy food to eat and all of those things. So it is important. And then we have our category of personal care and basic needs programs. So that's just your basic food boxes, bags of hygiene items. So those are not meant to last a family forever and ever, but just kind of to get them through the hard times in a month where, maybe they have a week of the month where they're just kind of out of cash and they need to get their next paychecks or wait till their next paycheck comes. So they can come get a box of shelf-stable food that has things like spaghetti and peanut butter, and just some of those things may not be the healthiest, but it's something that's going to get them through and put food in their stomach. Those hygiene items, toilet paper, household cleaner, laundry detergent, feminine hygiene supplies. A lot of those things we take advantage of. Josh and I joke about, we always see each other at Target, and usually I'm buying that kind of stuff.
When I'm not working there in my red shirt.
Exactly. And so, we take that for granted. We can grab our coffee and just roam around Target and buy things we need. And I leave with a lot of things I don't need. And Nathan, close your ears because you're my financial guy and I'm supposed to be sticking to my budget.
She told me the exact opposite last week when we met. So I'm not sure where. I mean, this is the news review
This is
right
recorded.
here. Yeah.
I know. I just got
That's
myself.
going in your notes right there.
No, but it's a luxury. That's what I'm getting at. It's a luxury to be able to do that, and a lot of the families that we help, they can't do that. And I think you guys know more than ever, like how important it is just to have those basic necessities. And so, we laugh, but it's a very important thing. And a lot of people rely on those things. Other pieces of those programs include, clothing vouchers. I forgot to mention that. So we have a thrift store here in Salina. We also have partnerships in Hayes and Manhattan with organizations that have thrift stores. So if people come in needing clothes, they can go shopping and get those essentials that they need at zero cost.
And real quick on that store too.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not just like your typical like junk is there. I mean, we were able to walk through there, and you guys do an awesome job of making sure it's extremely good quality, very nice, tons of variety for any kind of person in your family who might need something.
And anybody can shop at the, come in there.
Well, and Kara Ivy, who's our volunteer coordinator, she actually heads up the thrift store, and she is, when you hear the volunteers talking about how good she is at managing them and managing, the store and the clothes and the merchandise, you've got somebody special that's overseeing everything. And we've got, customers that are regulars that come back, almost every day. And that merchandise goes out the door. It's amazing how much stuff goes in and out all the time. And that's really kind of her job, is to take it in and then get rid of it. And she does an extremely good job at that.
And she's so particular about what we'll put out and what we won't. But we don't... just because something's 10 times nicer, we charge what it's worth in some cases, but the prices are so low because we want to make it accessible to everyone. And so it's a clean, high quality place that provides dignified shopping for
anybody.
It's one of our funds.
There we go.
We're getting some feedback.
Yeah, sorry.
It was yours.
Bad. It's
I don't want to step on it, though.
No, it needs to be broken so I can get a new one.
Insurance?
Oh, well.
It's not recorded either.
No, it needs to go. I need to break it the final straw, so we'll buy a new one. We'll put it that way.
You say that, and then I'm going to stand up and step on
It's
it.
okay.
But the buzzing did go away.
It did.
So.
It was that.
I thought it was just my headphones. I was like, God, my headphones are
No,
all
I did
jacking up.
until I
And
saw him. I was like, oh no, it's all.
What is your phone doing? Mine's not. You get? Oh, it is.
Yeah.
It is. It's yours too.
Weird.
We learned something new today. But anyways, no, the store's open to donations and for anyone to shop. I enjoy finding treasures there. And the thing is, all the income goes back into the whole mission and programs. So that's an amazing thing. And something that I don't think people realize about the store that's been really eye-opening to me is it provides a service for folks who are maybe grieving the loss of a loved one. So a lot of folks have been, the past 2 years especially have been full of illness and loss and all of those things. And a lot of people then are forced to sit down and clean out closets and clean out homes of their parents who have passed. And it's an important part of that process to do that and then find a place that's meaningful to take their stuff that you feel like it's going to a good purpose or a place that you trust to do something good with it. And we've heard from a lot of folks that it's just really nice to have a place that treats you so well. Those volunteers are so great and receptive and comforting. And so that's something too, if someone's ever dealing with that or doesn't know where to take their stuff, we're glad to help with that process. Cool. So
no, sorry for getting you off the track there, but
no, that's all right.
That store was a really cool part of it.
It's a treasure in town. So if you've never been in, I think everybody needs to go.
We had a lot of suits too. A lot of suits.
And I know this is, a podcast, so it lives on for eternity, but we have the most amazing Christmas store that opened. And so there's all kinds of Christmas
Really?
decor.
Okay.
So if you're looking for affordable holiday stuff, that, like, I love to do that. But, it gets expensive.
That's cool.
Yeah, that is really cool.
Come check it out. So that was clothing vouchers. On the same token, we have a diaper program, and this I would say, which I'm sure we'll talk more about in a little bit, but this is our, what I consider to be like our biggest, fastest growing program. So it's a great concept. It's been going on for several years, but I think the need is just really, really there. So for families who are income qualified with children of diapering age, they can come in once a month and get a big case of diapers and a big pack of wipes until their child ages out of diapers. And so we have been, as one of the staff put it last week, we're going through diapers like hotcakes. And so just to put that into real numbers for you, we just placed an order. We order diapers by the pallet through a partnership with the National Diaper Bank Network, which allows us to get them in bulk at an more affordable cost. But we just placed an order for about 7 or 8 pallets of diapers, and that costs $13,000, to do that. And that will last us, 3 to 4 months. Wow. But that is going straight into the hands of families with children who are in need of those. And a story that Eric's heard me tell before, when I was brand new on this job, we were closed one day. Nobody else was in the office. My desk phone rang, and it was a dad. And he's like, I've been trying to, we were closed down for our Christmas break. That's what it was. And he was like, I've been trying to get a hold of somebody because we need to get more diapers. And I said, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. We've been closed. And he's like, we're almost out. And I'm like, well, do you think you can make it through the weekend? Like, we'll be back open on Monday. And I heard him physically counting, like, in his hand how many diapers he had. And he's like, I don't know. And, I, as an administrative staff, like, I don't know exactly where all the stuff was or it was. So I just got in my car and went to Walmart and got him some diapers and took him to his house because he needed them. But it just became so real in that moment. It was like, this little kid is going to have a dirty diaper on for way too long if we don't help him out. And this dad's trying to do the right thing, or, trying to get what he needs and can't. And that's where this program directly helps those kids. No matter what choices their parents have maybe made or not made in life, like, those kids deserve, like, health and cleanliness, and recycling diapers is not a good choice. It's not a healthy choice, but some parents are forced to choose between buying food and buying diapers. So we're here to help support that, and are excited to work with you guys to see that through. So other partnerships that happen, 24/7 gas stations help provide gas vouchers. So if people need transportation to get to doctor's appointments or job interviews, those types of things, they can pop in and we'll give them a gas voucher to go over to 24/7 and get, 10 to, I think it's 10 right now, which doesn't seem like it's going to get you that much gas, but it'll get you enough to get to where you need to go. $10 worth of gas to travel. So, this area, personal care and basic needs, kind of just all the stuff that we give out is really grown, I think, since COVID. We have an outreach program, which I'm just going to talk about a little bit. And I think Eric should tell you kind of the birth of some of that, because he has some really cool stories about how that all came to be before I ever showed up at Catholic Charities. But the outreach program helps serve people throughout all 31 counties. So we have 3 vans, one in each office, and they travel every Wednesday to 2 different communities. So as a whole, we hit 24 communities every month. And I don't know if the camera can see, but you guys can see this map. And wherever there's a van on there is a place that one of our staff is traveling to deliver to folks. So that's just one way that we're trying to serve and reach all those 31 counties. But Eric, do you want to talk about kind of the growth of this outreach program and how
with the vans?
With the vans and how all of that came to be.
I don't think I've publicly ever shared this.
do you not want to?
Oh, no, I'm
Okay.
fine. It's not a short story.
We can always edit it. Remember that too. So. Okay. No, I'm just-
Well, we had vans that we just, stumbled across, and they were just used vans that we started this with. And it was actually an idea that was started by the previous CEO before Megan, and the idea from another Catholic Charities, the Catholic Charities in Kansas City. They were going out rurally with a big van and, meeting people's needs. And that's kind of how that idea started for us. But I remember going to a chamber after hours one time, and it was at Long MacArthur. And the first person I ran into was North MacArthur. And I just came up to him and I said, well, thank you so much for what you do to help Catholic Charities, because we just really appreciate what you do to help us and, all the different things that we do. And I just kind of looked at him, and I was familiar with some of the things that they do for the community that, it just kind of hit me. And I said, I don't think most people really know what all you guys do. And he just looked at me and he goes, I don't think most people have any idea all the different things we do for the community. And that was about the extent of our conversation. And I was there for the chamber after hours. And I guess I started thinking about that a lot. And I've got to give credit where credit is due, but I think God was behind a lot of it. Because I tried to go to sleep that night, and I woke up and I was thinking about, well, Long MacArthur is helping a lot of people and nobody knows about it. How could we change that? And I thought, if we had a van for each one of our offices with their name on it, and they, saw what we were doing, helping real people with, real problems, that it would be pretty clear that people would know that Long MacArthur is, somewhat behind it. And so I had that idea and tried to go back to sleep. Couldn't go back to sleep. Woke up again. And this was on and off all night long. And I thought, why am I going through this? And I said, God, are you telling me this? Are you talking to me about this? And there's no, audible answer or anything, but it just came to me that, well, who else do you think is telling you this? Where does this stuff come from? And eventually I got to the point where, I was thinking about everything I needed to do. And I was thinking, do I need to go talk to Long MacArthur about this idea? And I tried to go back to sleep. No. And I woke up again. Eric, get up and write this stuff down. And I thought, okay. So I got up and wrote it down and tried to go back to sleep. Eric, get back up and make sure you wrote this down. I'm telling you, this is actually what happened to me. And so I thought, well, God, if you're telling me to do this, I don't have any problem with doing that. I'll go out and talk to him. That's decided already. But the next morning I got up, went in and talked to Michelle, who was our CEO at the time. And I said, Michelle, this is kind of an idea that I had last night. And I told her the same story, probably in better detail because it was more clear then. And she said, well, go talk to him. Because I wanted to make sure that, our leadership there was okay with that. I didn't just want to go out on my own and do something that might create problems I didn't know. Went out and talked to him, and actually took Jill, who was on staff that drove the van out of Salina with me, so she could really explain to Derek Lee, and that's who we met with, about, what we do with the vans and who we see and what we do. And he really liked the idea. And he goes, it's going to be a team decision. We have to, talk with everybody about it. And that was actually on Halloween. That was on Halloween when we got the meeting with them. And I did not hear back from Derek Lee until the first part of January, probably the first week in January. And I just sent him an email and I said, Derek, is this something you guys still are interested in? And he sent me back an email. I still have it. I'm trying to remember. And he goes, Eric, we absolutely want to do that. We'll be in contact with you. And that's how the vans got started with Long MacArthur. But I'm definitely going to say that was a God-inspired thing that happens all the time at Catholic Charities with different things. And it was just, without them right now, we would be hurting. People would be hurting because we wouldn't be getting as much stuff out there. And we're working with them right now to get to larger vans where we have some of the smaller vans that we started with so we can take more stuff out. But that's how that happened.
No, I love that. I like, it seems like that as Christians, or we don't like to ask for things a lot of times because I'm not sure we feel bad about asking or not, but I kind of, Josh, you can go back to whatever verse it is where Christ says, ask and you shall receive. And it's like, well, the worst they're going to say is no.
Yeah.
And so, but I mean, we are called to give generously when we can, and that means different things for everybody else, but people don't know what to give unless
Right.
someone
Tell 'em.
asks for it, and people are told what to do. So, but I like that. It's really cool.
I think there's because I always digress, but it makes me think about where, good business and good entrepreneurs, and when businesses act not just ethically, but they act for the good of the community. It's like capitalism and these things where you actually, that's a win-win-win situation, and
And the words of Michael Scott from The Office: "A win-win-win-win."
that's probably burrowed its way
Completely
into my
digressing.
subconscious. Yeah. That's so funny.
Sorry.
But no, it just makes me think of like so many people think of business and and the corruption that people see with different things or the prices of things, and it's like, hey, when you're buying a car at Long MacArthur, this big old wheel keeps on turning by generating this opportunity for. It's not just a business,
Well,
There's
and-
other.
They just gave us the vans, and I mean, we don't ever hear from them. They just want us to go do the work and get it done. And I mean, they've just blessed us with those vans, and they also take care of the maintenance on the vans.
That's
too.
awesome. That's really
I
cool.
mean,
yeah.
it's just kind of phenomenal that the one thing about that too is, what if I would have never went and asked them? And I think there's a little bit to that too, that I really, without a doubt, know that was, God inspiring me to do that. But what if I wouldn't have done that? I mean, how many people would not be getting what they need now? And
I think that's what God works a lot too. Is He wants you to. He's not just going to give it. Maybe He wants you to not work for it.
kind of like
but-
Job, huh?
Well, there you go. Yeah. And He wants you to take action or take faith or take a leap of, hey, I trust you. This is a crazy ask. Hey, can I just get some free vans? Like, who's going to give me that? And it's like, well, hey, I'm behind you.
Or Jonah and the whale too, I guess.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so it's, I don't know, that's really cool. And like you said too, I think it's really cool to highlight different areas in the community that people don't, like you said, the 24/7, the gas and stuff like that. I mean, it's really cool that organizations try to keep things and help out their community. It's really cool to
And
highlight that.
that's one of the most beautiful things. So before I came to Catholic Charities, I worked at the Greater Salina Community Foundation, and both places, something that I just love is it's so easy to get bogged down in the world and the bad, and like there's so much chaos in the world, and it just always feels like it's getting worse. And it's easy to get bogged down in that, but when you work places like this, you see the flip side, like all the generous people who want to help, who give their time, who will do anything that they can to be a part of the solution. And a lot of those folks, I mean, aren't doing it. They're doing it just because it's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
And it has those secondary benefits for them. Like, they get their logo on a van and we say their names, and then, it creates a good advertisement for them. But they're not doing it for
That's
that
not the reason why they're doing it. Yeah, that's kind of the after effect. Yep.
Yeah, and it's really great to see that. And this community has so much of that, and this whole region really does.
Yeah.
And so that's been
really cool.
great. Yeah.
Can you guys hit on the adoption and the immigration
Yes.
process too? Those are two things that I thought were really cool that you guys do.
Absolutely. Well, and I'll start with the pregnancy support and adoption program. So, in my whole 2 years here, we've done one adoption. In the past 4 weeks, there's been 2 adoptions, and then somebody really close to our organization who didn't adopt through us, but utilized some of our support network, also had completed a successful adoption of her son. So something in the air out there is really, I don't know. It's
and the
really
adoption
cool.
process is pretty in depth.
It's
pretty
very
long,
it's
right?
very intense. A lot. So with our program, we have a pregnancy program that's funded by the state of Kansas. So again, there's a lot of attention given to other issues and other things, but this is something that's been going on for a long time. So the Kansas Department of Health and Environment has a program called the Pregnancy Maintenance Initiative, PMI for short. So it's nothing that you're really going to hear about a lot. We call it our pregnancy support program, but in essence, it's money from the state government that provides counseling support, financial support, a lot of support through items like baby supplies, car seats, those types of things to any pregnant mother. So there's no income requirements. They just have to enroll in the program and follow all the steps, show up for their appointments, meet all their goals, and they can receive these incentives. And it's just the goal of the program is to support pregnant moms and make sure that they are prepared to bring a healthy baby into the world and have the supports that they need to raise that baby. So the program follows that mom up to 6 months postpartum. And actually they're looking at taking that up to 12 months. And there's been talks out there of increasing the funding for the program. So there's a lot of good happening in that realm that I just don't think gets a lot of publicity. We don't hear about it a lot. But through that program, obviously we meet a lot of pregnant moms. And one of the discussions that's had is, are they choosing to parent their baby or would they like to place the baby for adoption? There's a variety of reasons that a parent might choose that. What we're seeing, the trends, is that a lot of parents are choosing to raise their babies. There's a lot of supports out there now that didn't exist many years ago, but some parents do choose to place. And in our situation at Catholic Charities, a lot of times those placements tend to be more of an emergency situation where a baby is born and then it's all of a sudden like, oh my gosh, we're not, this is a bad situation. They call our team in, and then our pool of adoptive couples who our team works with. We have a pool of about 10 adoptive couples our team works with to, complete their home studies, make sure that they're ready. So at any point, birth parents can choose from those adoptive couples. So a lot of times our situations are more emergency based. So a birth parent may not be legally allowed to raise their baby, but for whatever the instance is, our team is always there, and our parents are always ready to go. And but recently, like I said, we did actually have a planned adoption where a very, very young couple just decided they weren't prepared. They weren't at a place in life to parent their baby, and so they selected another young couple who's not able to have their own children, and so it just makes a very beautiful story. And in the state of Kansas, adoptions are open, and so those birth parents will always, kind of maybe be able to have some kind of a connection and see that child grow. And so that's a really, I don't know, it's an unknown part of what we do. I think we used to do a lot more adoptions, but like I said, there's been this weird recent surge as of late, and so I just have it just gives me a lot of hope. Especially, there's been a lot of the whole pro-life battle has just been really hard as of late, and so it's been really hard to stay positive, and so I think seeing all of this good still happen, I just at our last board meeting I said that's tough, it's a tough thing to think about, but we're still here, we're still helping these moms. There's a lot of people reaching out wanting to do more, and there's 3 babies just close to our organization that have a whole new trajectory on life now, and that you just have to hold on to that hope. So
well, I think that voting back was in August in Kansas, that puts a whole new light and a whole new battle and urgency for adoptions and for getting the word out of reaching out to young women who might not have a pregnancy they want.
Yeah.
And, hey, we can help you out in getting this baby to a family that wants it.
Yeah, like, it's going to be hard during that pregnancy, but there are places that will support you through that. And even if they end up choosing to just parent their baby, there are so many supports there. And that's what all of these programs are designed
Awesome.
to do.
That's cool.
So that's this, I'm looking at this stat. One of our goals has just been to increase adoptions. I was talking to somebody today. I'm like, well, we did. Last year we had one, and this year we've had two so far. And so it's that we've doubled it, and that it's a small number, but it's progress. And
That is
so,
cool.
and you just have to think, especially in a year like this, I think about that young couple. They're 18 and 19 years old, like fresh out of high school, and just they weren't ready, and they could have made a whole different decision. So,
Well, and that's, you look at it, that's another life. That's a life saved. And that's really.
and on the flip side too, I look at the families who want those babies and they are not able to have them.
Yeah.
Like infertility is another issue that so many families deal with. It's hard to talk about. It's very emotional, but that is one thing. To be a part of our adoptive parent pool, parents do have to be unable to naturally have their own children. So that's just how it works with our organization. But that's also, to help benefit folks who want to have families and aren't able to. So especially in the one instance of this young couple who just wasn't ready to be parents yet. I know who the adoptive parents are, and they have a whole story of their own, and I won't go into that, but I just think about, like, they're amazing people. They've been through a tough journey. There's, with health things, and it gives them a chance to, further instill their goodness and their values onto the future generations. So
No, that's cool.
it's a beautiful thing.
And then if you wouldn't mind hitting on the immigration too, which I think is really cool too. Yeah.
Eric, do you want to take that one?
Sure.
I should laugh. We laugh because it's definitely the most controversial topic. We get a lot of hate mail about immigration.
Really? Wow.
Oh yeah.
It's interesting on the side note, when you guys gave us the tour, I think what I realized was just how many people were actually working in specific areas.
Yeah.
And just the expertise and the intention and intentionality, that passion that was going through the building. It's like everybody really, they really cared about what they were doing to add to that area. But I just thought the diversity of the needs that you guys are meeting was just, wow. I was like, well, there's a lot more going on here than I had known. So
There's a ton. And the team that we have is, a lot of them have been there way longer than me, and they know their stuff. With immigration, it's been kind of a journey. We in July, we recently received accreditation from the Department of Justice so that our immigration staff person can provide legal services. Although she is not an attorney, she can provide legal attorney services to folks. But the purpose of the immigration program is to provide low-cost legal immigration services to people who are in our country so that they can continue to further their lives and be here, maintain their legal status so that they can pay taxes, so they can be productive members of our country. And that's, truly what they want. But there is a perception that I just laugh. People lose sight of the fact that we're all humans. It kind of comes back to that. We're all humans, and we're all fighting battles. And there's reasons that people want to be in this country or reasons that they need to be here that we will never understand. But we're just here to help them and make sure that they can continue to do the right things and make the right choices. And, I talked to our director of immigration a lot, and she's like, they generally speaking, a lot of the immigrants from Mexico are very hardworking. They're very proud, and she gets very frustrated because she's like, they just really want to do the right thing, and it's a very complicated process. So it's not as simple as just walk to the office and fill out a form and pay your fee and you're done. I mean, there's people that have been in the process for 20 years, and they're still waiting to hear if their case has been reviewed. And so it's a very hard process, and it takes a lot of patience. And
well, that's where maybe I think if it's a controversial topic,
Yeah.
whatever side you stand on of, open borders, not open borders. And
Right.
It's like, well, maybe we can all agree that we can at least try and make the legal immigration process
Exactly.
easier or
Yeah.
more efficient for people who do want to come here the right way and become citizens. Maybe we can try and figure out a way to make it an easier process.
Absolutely.
And give aid to those who are seeking that process.
Right.
And that's where whatever side you stand on
Exactly.
or believe on, there's some middle ground that we can all try
Oh,
to get
and
on
that's
there.
a great point, Nathan, because, we just laugh. It's like so many people are so mad. And I get it. I mean, people see what they see on the news.
Yeah.
And there's been a lot of things that have been portrayed probably a little bit incorrectly on the news as far as like.
Wait, the news portrays things incorrectly?
Well, there's a lot of discussion amongst like Catholic Charities USA and the directors across the country about how things are portrayed. And there's been other people in similar positions that I hold that their agencies just get blasted. But the point being, the message from Catholic Charities nationally is it's like our work is humanitarian and not political. And no matter what, like you just said, the system needs a lot of work, and we're just trying to serve people, give them food and shelter, and they're here now, so we've got to take care of them. Usually when they get here, no matter what happens, like they're in a very bad shape. And so we can't just let that continue. We've got to fix the whole system, because
and the less strain on like welfare on that part,
Yes.
and the more that churches and organizations can help lift that away from welfare
Exactly.
and government assistance and more onto nonprofits.
And that's
people
what
who wanna help
Catholic
out
Charities is trying
Yeah.
to do. And so while we're not here in Kansas, we're not really a part of what
Yeah.
happens at the border, but we do try to help those in our region who need that assistance to get it. And actually the director of our program, Yesenia, is an immigrant herself. She's a DACA recipient. She's been a part of that for 10 years. So she started out as a client of Catholic Charities back in 2012, and then has become so passionate about it that she's now decided, she's like, I'm going to get my bachelor's degree, and then I'm going to go to law school and really pursue this because it's just so important to her. But there's nobody more passionate and understanding about, why it matters than like Josh mentioned, the people that we have doing the work, because so many of them have just been there. So, just remember it's the humans first, and we've got to treat everybody humanely. So, sorry, Eric, I kind of just started rambling.
You know all those deep details. One thing I would share, though, is all of the donations that we do get, they stay within the 31 counties that we serve and cover.
Right.
They don't ever leave those counties, so it's all put to use locally.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, I think the controversial issues are the ones we should talk about the most. And so that's probably controversial. But anyways, that's kind of fun.
It's
But
okay. And I appreciate being able to bring those things up, because
I think it's cool that, again, the Catholic Charities organization covers so many areas that a lot of people would have no idea. I mean, you think, like, my first thought was, well, I'm not Catholic. I can't even be associated with it. But I think it's a very wrong perceptive. And you guys sharing, here's all that we do, and here's how people can interact and give or volunteer or help out with different areas. Because everything you just listed there, one of those areas impacts, or somebody has a desire to help out in one of those areas. And so it's not like, well, that's not for me. It's no, every single person has a care somewhere, and almost every one of those cares is you guys just talked about right there. And so I think it's really cool that.
when I always say, you don't have to necessarily even be not anti-religion, but like even if you're not yourself a person of faith, like to participate in the work of Catholic Charities, as long as you want to improve the world and love people and improve lives, like you said, in one of these areas, this is a great place to help do that.
That's cool. So let's hear about you guys then. So we got a lot about Catholic Charities. How did you guys come to be with Catholic Charities? What's your background? Kind of where did that all how did you even get to Salina and kind of go from there? So
Are you pointing at me to
I think you should
lead
start.
us off? Gosh, I haven't talked about that for a long time. I don't even know where to begin. I came to, just whatever.
Yeah, just how do you get here? I mean, are you from Salina? Or?
Who is Eric Frang? The burning question we
boy.
all want to know.
Well, I came to Salina in 1981, to give you a time frame.
Before I was even born.
I was like, I'm not going to say it. I'm not going to say it.
Oh boy.
Nathan said it.
And I came here to work for a radio station. That's why I came here. And I've been in radio for, probably 20 some years. And I was in radio before I came here. So I've got a long background in that, but it's been so long since I've been a part of that because I left that a long time ago, and went to work for Kansas Cellular, if anybody remembers Kansas Cellular, which turned into Alltel, which turned into Verizon, which I don't know what it is now, but
Still Verizon.
yeah, no, I did that for a few years, and then I ended up going to work for somebody I went to church with, Nick Budrow. I don't know if you even remember that name or heard of that name. They had Town and Country Home Improvements. And so I traveled, several states just verifying mortgages or financing for whatever home improvement project they wanted to do. And that was kind of a learning experience. And that leads me into, I used to listen to the Bot Radio Network out of Wichita. Yeah. And they had this program that was talking about this book. And I'm trying to remember what the book's name was, but it was all about trying to find your place in the world where God wants you to be. And if you work on your relationship with God to get closer to God, God will invite you to join him in his work. I mean, that's kind of what the book was about. And it wasn't too long after I was reading this book, and at the same time, I was also on the board for the Salina Rescue Mission. And that's a whole nother story. I got involved with the rescue mission, but I was asked to submit my resume to the Salina Rescue Mission leadership at the time. And I thought, well, I'm on the board. I don't know about that because they don't have any money, and how's this ever going to work? And so I started thinking, if that's not an invitation to join God in his work, I don't know what is. So that's kind of how that happened. And I ended up going to work for the Salina Rescue Mission, doing the exact same thing that I'm doing for Catholic Charities right now. Worked for them, went to work for St. Francis Community Services, which is now St. Francis Ministries. They had a different name when I started for them. They changed names a couple of times while I was there. And then getting to Catholic Charities, another chamber after hours that I was at the Salina Airport, the CEO at the time, Karen Hauser, she came up to me at this chamber after hours and she goes, Eric, I've got okay to hire somebody to come and help us raise money, so would you consider giving us your resume? And I thought, sure. And at the time I was working at St. Francis, and I really didn't have any desire to change my job then because I was really happy with things we were doing at St. Francis because we were doing some really good things there. And I just wasn't looking or anything. And again, I guess God will invite you to join him in his work. Gave them my resume and they talked to me, and I sat down with 3 different board members and Karen at the time, and they wanted me to come to work for them, and here I am.
And you said 12 years you've been with
Catholic Charities.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah, I think I was at St. Francis for about 5 years. Gosh, without looking at my resume, I don't remember the time frame. And I think it was at the mission for about 5 years too. Okay. But I can tell you a whole bunch of other stories besides all that. But that gives you a nutshell and where I've been and how I got here. So
radio to ministry. That's kind of how it all transitioned.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, and I'll just throw this in. When the Salina Rescue Mission, you guys probably don't remember when they were condemned, when they used to have their location over by the railroad tracks. Okay. I can't remember, Bishop Street maybe is where it was or whatever. But anyway, Mike Peterson, and some of you may know him, he's a really good guy. He was the city inspector at the time, and he had condemned him because the building was just in such bad shape in housing the homeless guys that they had there. And so they had a picture on the Salina Journal at the time of Mike, I think, was on the front. The mission was in the background, and the headlines were, they condemned the Salina Rescue Mission. It was called the Gospel Rescue Mission at the time, and they're warehousing people like animals or something like that. It was just really kind of a crazy story. And my wife at the time she had just got out of a position of being a bank examiner, and so she was we were getting the journal so she could find another job. And so she sees this picture on the front, and another God thing, I think God was speaking to her about, I think just touched her heart about, what are you going to do about this? And so I was working at KSKG at the time, and I came home for lunch, and my regular routine was to come home, eat lunch, watch TV, and that's what I did over lunchtime and went back to work. And that day was a little bit different because she turned off the TV and she had this line of journal, right in front of me, and she just kind of slid it over to me and had me look at it. And she said, "Eric, what if I took away your food?" And I thought, what's going on with you today? And she goes, "I want you to read this." And it was her idea that she said, "Why don't you take your week of vacation and we can go sleep in cardboard boxes at one of the shopping centers and see if we can raise money to keep the mission open." We didn't have a clue what the Salina Rescue Mission or the Gospel Rescue Mission was at the time. I'd been on radio for several years, didn't know anything about the mission. And I thought, you are nuts. And I thought, a week of my vacation to go do this? And ended up, I went back to work, and our promotions guy, his name was Barry Burgard, and his family owned the furniture store, which used to be where Jim's Formal Wear is right now. And so he had a long history with Salina. But anyway, I talked to him, and he goes, "Eric, I think you need to go talk to Ray Pollard, who was the owner of the radio station at the time." I go talk to him about that. And so I went and talked to Ray, and Ray said, "I think that's a great idea, Eric. Why don't you just broadcast live there the whole time you're out there?" And so that's what we did. And there's some people that remember that whole thing, but it doesn't sound like a lot of money right now, but we raised, if I remember right, it was over $20,000 that kind of helped the mission figure out what they were going to do until they got to where they are now. And I mean, that is crazy.
That's such a cool story after talking to
Chad. Yeah, that is really cool.
Yeah.
Well, Chad was a volunteer when I was still working there, and
Okay.
I
so
connected
cool.
with Chad to get him as a volunteer, and then it's kind of involved.
So it's
really
kind of
cool.
Eric's kind of good at that kind of thing.
That's
He gets
awesome.
the right people involved,
Yep.
and then
So Eric, does anytime you're watching TV and your wife goes and shuts it off, or puts your phone down, do you get a little concerned when she starts having visions?
Well, honestly, that
That
hasn't happened
sounds
again.
like a very cool perception on her part to be open to the Spirit to respond and go, "Hey, we got to take action." I think that's a very convicting question that's asked. What are you going to do about this?
Yeah.
Well, no,
like-
I think her being out of work at the time, she didn't know what she was going to do. And, she
makes
was
sense.
probably thinking, and there's been several times where she's went into a restaurant, and there was somebody outside that apparently was homeless. And I remember one time that I think she went into IHOP, and there was somebody there that was asking her for help. And I can't remember what she did, but I remember her saying, "What if that was Jesus?" And I thought, yeah, what if it was? Because it very well could have been. It very well could be. I mean, it's just got to be your own interpretation of what's important to you and what you are going to do about it, or what can you do about it. And I don't think God wants anybody ever feeling guilty about what they can or can't do. But if you can do something, it's
Do it.
something to do.
My wife and I joke, and there's a lot of probably truth behind it. She always looks at me and says, you may be the head of the house, but I am the neck, and I will turn you wherever I want you to look. I was like, yeah, you're probably right. That's very true.
Good wife.
So, yeah. I think she got it from a movie, but I don't know. Anyways, but I like that. That's really cool. That's a really cool story. Yeah.
Eric's the man.
All right. How about you? Your background.
Let's hear it. Let's hear it, Megan.
That's just.
Do you need more wine? Do you need more, more coffee?
I
might get some more coffee if you don't mind.
alternating between the two. Well, I was born in 1989, so I was born after Eric moved to Salina.
Thanks, Megan.
No, I just have to tease you, and I just have to say really quick, Eric is like the greatest gift to Catholic Charities, and like he's been so like a mentor to me, and like his faith, like I said it before, is just like infectious, and it rubs off on everybody he meets. So he's a gem.
One thing that Eric has said repeatedly throughout anything when you've been talking has been almost like you've got this open, searching, what does God want?
Mm-hmm.
And that's contagious.
Well, how many times do we ask God, this is what I want, but we don't ask, okay, what is your will in my life? And yeah, it's very evident throughout your life that that's been a constant question of.
Well, it's kind of scary. I think you just let God take over your life, and okay, I'm going to do whatever you want me to do, and you don't know what that's going to be, but it's really hard to do that if you've never done that before. And then once you do it, it's the best thing that could ever happen to you. You just don't realize that God wants the best for you. And that's usually what happens. It's just your imagination just takes you away from what really could happen.
Well, that's a great segue.
There you go.
Follow that up now, yeah.
1989.
No. Well, I can work backwards because my last day at Catholic Charities is November 4th, and then I'm not sure what the next chapter looks like yet. And so again, to hearing Eric say that, learning all of that from him about you just have to do the next right thing, and you don't know what, you just have to trust, and that's a huge thing that we always talk about, and sometimes you don't always know what it's going to look like next. So, but that's kind of also what got me here. So I grew up here in Salina, went to Salina Central with good old Nathan over here.
Graduating class of what year was it?
2008.
There we go.
Yeah.
Yep.
Forever ago, it feels like.
We're youngins right here in the
Yeah,
middle.
you know. And then I went off to K-State, where I changed my major 3 times. I ended up graduating with a degree in public relations and a minor in business and a minor in dance. And I've taught a lot of dance in my life. That's probably my number one, like, filler-upper feel-good thing is spreading that joy and touching the lives of the young people. That's super, super fun. And that's actually kind of what brought me back here to Salina. So I was in my last semester at K-State and had about 6 credit hours. So I was working part-time and finishing school and teaching a little bit. And my old dance teacher growing up called me up, and she had started teaching some classes at a studio, but then got engaged and was moving to Wichita and needed somebody to come here once a week and cover the classes that she had started. And I was like, okay. And so I started driving back and forth once a week, stayed in Manhattan after college for about a year, still making that drive once a week on Wednesdays, and then decided ultimately to just move back home. And I started working, worked Great Plains Manufacturing, met a bunch of really amazing people there, got to work with the company founder, Roy Applequist, and kind of in his last years before he sold to Kubota, and just kind of seeing how all of that transition played out, and just getting to be around him. And he's one of the most humble people that I've ever been around in my life, and just one of the most generous. You talk about people in the community that are doing things that nobody has any
You'll still
real
hear
clue.
people talk about him.
Yeah.
And I don't have a face. I can't picture a face, but
Yeah.
it's like his character has a reverberation
It
because
so
of his
does.
actions. Yeah.
Exactly. And that was never going to be a long-term like career for me, but just having that experience and knowing him and seeing that legacy really impacted me. But then I had the opportunity to go and build the marketing department at the Greater Salina Community Foundation. And that was incredible, getting to meet people like Eric. So I did know Eric from that role, working with all of the different nonprofits here in Salina, working on events like Match Madness and Giving Tuesday and different things. And just like I mentioned before, really witnessing all the good and the generosity that happens here in Salina and the surrounding areas. And that was just really amazing. And then during the pandemic of all times, I got a letter in the mail from the Salina Diocese saying, we're looking for a new director of Catholic Charities. Would you be interested in meeting to discuss this? And I opened it and I laughed. I was like, and then I called my mom and I was like, I just got this letter. Like, that's so nice of them, but they're nuts. Like, I'm never going to do this. But something in me decided to take the meeting and just see what happened. Just mostly out of like politeness.
So they contacted you directly then?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I
Was
knew
that from the relationship you guys had with?
No.
Okay.
Eric was not. Eric had no idea. Now I will say,
no idea. Yeah.
I knew Eric, and so throughout my whole decision to come, I was like, well, I know some of the people there, and they're great. But yeah, no, Eric wasn't involved in that process. So that's kind of the crazy part.
Well, if they would have shown me a list of names of, who, what do you think? What do you think? Megan would have been one of them and said, Doctor.
That's cool. Okay.
That's
Yeah.
really nice.
Yeah.
Thank you. So I went to this meeting just to be polite and be like, and hear him out and just kind of say, okay, no thanks. But talk to him for a long time. And then there's just something that kind of eats at you like, okay, okay, I think I could maybe do this. So I thought about it a lot. It was a slow process. Had another meeting. I don't even remember all of it, but I just remember like it just felt like the pathway was opening up and it was there weren't a lot of obstacles. And it just kind of felt at the time I was really scared, but I was like, I can't. Eventually I had this offer in my hand and I don't know how I got there. I was doing all the things and I was just like, okay, God has opened this pathway. And Catholic Charities, kind of like Eric just said with the list, I have so much love and respect for so many organizations in the community, but through my work at the foundation, Catholic Charities was always like one of my absolute favorite ones. And so I was like, okay, this is an amazing opportunity to come and contribute to this mission and live this out. And so I said yes, and then got really scared. I'm like, what am I doing? But that's faith. And that's just, you just do it and you work through the hard times. And, it was a hard time there for a while because it was August of 2020. And so, I look back, I'm like, I was so clueless. But if I would have really known the challenges that lied ahead, you would say no. And that's, again, where your faith comes in. You just trust, like, okay, God put me here, so we're going to figure this out. And it was August 2020, so the pandemic was still just rearing its way through. And we're trying to serve families, but keep our staff healthy and just balance all of that. Plus the organization, is going through lots of change in leadership. So it just felt like, like there's just so much. And everybody was just really, anxious and stressed. And we all just took a big collective breath and then got really focused and got down to work and worked as a team to create a vision and a plan, a strategic plan. And by the grace of God, again, I always tell people, like, it's not me because I've never done this before, but got the board rallied around the same vision as the staff and the volunteers. And it's very exciting when you feel all these people building momentum around one
Common goal.
Shared goal, And while in the meantime, still, we partnered with the city of Salina and granted out $1.5 million to in COVID relief money to help house families. Because, that money was coming down and it was crazy because it was COVID and nobody really knew how anything was working, but we all figured it out. So we were still doing all these things, but still slowly kind of creating this plan and really working through, all of that rapid growth and change requires a lot of infrastructure things. So we've just really worked through a lot of that. And over the past couple months, I have just felt myself kind of running out of gas. And I'm not ashamed to admit that. Like, it's taken so much to like work through all that and get through all that. And I just kind of came to a point where I'm like, okay, like it's been all about this for, 2 years. And the team is in great shape. Everybody is, again, rallied around this shared vision. And I think everyone's just got a really great attitude and great momentum. And so I decided that I'm going to just take a new leap of faith. And I think for me, it's scary because for me, I'm a control freak. And so I'm like, okay, well, you got to have a plan before you just do the next thing. And I think I realized that this feels totally right. Like in every time, like time of prayer I have, I'm like, I feel so at peace with it. And then I step out into the world and I'm like, oh my gosh, what am I doing? But that's where I know I'm like, okay, I've learned something here. Yep. And so I'm ready now to be like, okay, like, you can't just sit around and do nothing and trust that God is going to drop something in your lap. So you have to like take responsibility and take action. But, something good's going to happen. I just don't know what it is. So that's my story. And it's just been an interesting week, but like I said, I still have nothing but amazing love and passion for this mission. And, I'm really excited to see what the future has in store for Catholic Charities, because I think it's only been great things. So
cool. Awesome. Well, we appreciate you guys coming on here and really much. Sharing the story of what you guys do and kind of your background and your stories too. Real quick, so if someone wants to contact you guys to either volunteer or donate, how do they do that? Where do they go? Where are you guys located at? And just kind of how does that look process-wise to get a hold of you guys?
Well, we have offices in Hayes, Manhattan, and Salina at 1500 South 9th. If they want to call us, it would be 785-825-0208. And if you want to email me, it's ccnks.org. That stands for Catholic Charities of Northern Kansas.
Okay, cool.
And our website has all that information, locations of all the offices, overview of all the programs. So that is ccnks.org.
Awesome. Cool.
We're also on Facebook and Instagram and all those things.
And here in November, we're excited to be able to partner with you guys and do our own little diaper drive. And so we're all our clients listening to this will be able to get more information on that, but we're excited to partner with you guys on that too.
And thank you for stepping in and doing that. That's going to be amazing.
So, but again, we really appreciate you guys giving us time to talk with you guys, have you guys on, and just kind of get to know
thanks
you
for
guys
all the
more.
work that you've done, beyond just a, career. You actually have something to show, like an impact from your work. And so thanks for being, doing that. So
thank you, Josh. Thank you, Nathan. So, you guys are fabulous.
You guys are great. Thank you for everything you're doing to make our community better.
Yeah.
We'll edit that part out. No, I'm joking. But cool. Awesome. Wine was good.
This wine is really good.
Coffee was good too.
I don't really care for red wines, but that I could see myself starting to.
Content here is for illustrative and educational purposes only. It is not legal, tax, or individualized financial advice. Nor is it a recommendation to buy, sell, or hold any specific security or engage in any specific trading strategy. Results will vary. Market conditions change continuously. Past performance is no guarantee of future results or success. All investing involves risk, including loss of principal. Securities offered by registered representatives through Private Client Services, member FINRA SIPC. Advisory products and services offered by investment advisory representatives through RFG Advisory, a registered investment advisor. RFG Advisory, Billings Group, and Private Client Services are unaffiliated entities.